Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of Cheat Code Radio. My name is Nicholas Downie. I'm the assistant editor in chief of lordsofgaming.net, and I am joined, as always, by my stalwart companion.
Ivan Siler from Multiverse Show, aka Anchorman V2, and together we are Cheat Code Radio. So let's go have some fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got, Game Pass destroying the games industry. We've got Quake Con and so much more to talk about. But first, we got to answer the poll question, right, from last week?
Yep, we got our poll question from last week. Thank you guys for actually turning up and actually voting this time. It was nice to have some like voter variety. Last time we had like Halo 1 with 100% of the vote, which is, I know that's not true. But anyway, so the question from last week: has Hassan abandoned? Is this a Kojima ploy? Who was really behind all this with Blue Box Studios? With 11% of the vote, Hideo Kojima. I guess some people still believe. With 33% of the vote, Big Boss Hassan. And with 56% of the vote, it was Jim Ryan all along.
Of course, the Scooby-Doo answer to the poll is the winner.
So, I guess let's actually follow up some stuff because actually we've had a little bit more that's come out since then. So there's this piece I think is really stupid because I've seen a couple people who have changed it around to like say different things like, oh, Hassan's giving out a free copy of Abandoned. Like, all you have to do is blank. Or like little things like that, or like they've twisted it around to be this weird thing. Basically, what they said is like, "Hey, if you owned The Haunting on Steam, we'll give you a free copy of Abandoned." Which, as we've established, barely anybody bought it, and you can't buy it now. So
It's a really exciting prospect for the 13 people that
44.
bought.
It's like, okay. But no, look at it that way. Like, hey, he's promising you a game, and he's promised you games before. When are you gonna get it?
We're sorry about our last abandonware. Here's more abandonware for the original abandonware.
Dude, whatever, man. I think people are finally done with him. Like, I don't see anybody else being like trying to push any narratives at this point.
See, I think the most interesting thing is I think people don't want this to die because it's easy traffic. Because any interview I've seen with him, no one has asked him a single hard question. Everyone dances around the super obvious questions that people want the answers to.
Yep.
And the more I think about it, the more I realize people are like, oh, it's gotta be Silent Hill because PlayStation's just letting this happen. As you mentioned in our last episode, it's been pretty much made clear as day you can buy a PlayStation blog post. And he wrote the PlayStation blog post for Abandoned. It wasn't like someone from PlayStation being like, hey, look at this great game we're supporting. It was literally a blog post that he paid to put up there, and he wrote himself. There is no PlayStation partnership, and people are going, well, what other game has an app? No other game's dumb enough to have an app.
Like, why would you?
Those are the questions people aren't asking. Like, why an app?
I think we guessed about the app. I think it was just that maybe it's a way for him to boost up metrics. Like, oh, look, I had this many downloads as opposed to this many views. Because views don't require active interest.
Right.
Views are more like, all right, yeah, I clicked on the video, I saw it, but it didn't cost me anything to do it. But doing a download was just 5 gigs or something.
Yeah.
Which is that's not nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a huge amount, but it's also not just infinitesimal amount. So that meant somebody had to be interested enough in whatever he was putting out to download something. So Like they went out of their way to do it, and so that way they can do an accurate metric of, look, these people went out of their way to watch this and download this app. This is how many people we can actually trust on would actually buy the game.
So it makes me wonder, do you think they're using the whole app and the engagement from the app to secure more funding for the game?
I thought about that last time. I thought that is a strong possibility. They may be thinking like, hey, look, we have this many downloads. Look how important we are. Please give us some support.
Yeah.
Give us some money.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I mean, it's more than just views.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, with the factual track record we've seen of their past in terms of developing games. This isn't a grand masterful Kojima scam or anything else. This is what it is, and we'll move on from it. And hopefully, I just honestly hope it's done for a while. I'm sick and tired of hearing about it at this point with nothing to show for it. Like all that hype around a trailer and the app reveal and things get excited about it, and you're like, oh look, a guy wearing standard Minnesota clothing walked across a floor. Exciting. Like,
surprise. No. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not anything to go off of. But hey, people are gonna believe what they're gonna believe, and hey, that's how it is. But, all right, let's get into some of these questions. We got some good ones today. I'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room. There has not been a lot that's happened this week, at least in terms of the news. But you guys still got questions, and we're gonna answer some of those questions. All right, this question comes from Agile Elf. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is out this week. Is there a game that you guys would want to get a Director's Cut edition with new content? I don't know off the top of my head. At least. All right, so what qualifies like a Director's Cut for them? It's basically the game, but with just content, just more content, really.
Yeah. It's almost like a Game of the Year edition, basically.
Okay. I don't know. You know what? I'll say it. Cyberpunk 2077.
You want a director's cut?
I want them to actually finish it, have the next gen versions available, and here's all the content. I still believe that first paid expansion should not be a paid expansion. That should be free, just to make up for all the crap we had to put up with. I think that should be a whole point. And in terms of like content, I think it needs to not only just be like, if we're talking about a director's cut edition, I think it needs to be more backgrounds instead of just the 3. I think they need to come up with another one, like do a soldier one, where it's like, all right, here's what you were doing during the war, and you came back from the war, or something like that. Maybe like a Netrunner one, just something a little different there, and just kind of build up the good baseline that you already have. I mean, that's what I would do at least. And other than that, also make it so like the fixers have like story arcs. Because that's what I found really annoying, is that the fixers are basically just kind of there, and you can like go and interact with them. You can go and find them, but for the most part, they don't really do anything in the world. They just kind of feed you missions, but there's no like overarching plot for them. There's no ending. But like you go out of your way to like find some of these people too. Like, oh yeah, like Jackie grew up with like Jackie and you know a guy, a major fixer in the area, who all you do is see him at the funeral, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. There was a lot of parts where Cyberpunk just cohesively didn't stick together, where it was like they go super in depth with certain things, and then other aspects they'd just be like, just go with it, and you're like, no. Like,
yeah, I felt like the beginnings and endings were great.
Yeah.
Like it all intertwined with each other very well. It was the middle portion that like I say, I think that a very uneven hand in terms of that depth, and I think they need to go in there and add more depth to it.
Yeah,
So,
because outside of like the main storyline and then the individual character arcs of like Pan Am and etc. Pan Am's the first one that came to mind for some reason. No idea why.
oh,
Uh,
so,
it's
I don't know.
strange. Um, but yeah, like those individual character arcs were really interesting. But the rest of the game's content, which actually, if you cut all that stuff away, is like 60% of the game, was just like it was like the polar opposite of Skyrim, which we're going to talk about later. But like Skyrim, like all the side stuff is what makes Skyrim amazing. But in Cyberpunk, it was that main quest line and the arching storylines of
Yeah.
the people you meet that was really amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point there. Really, Bethesda games in general, they normally excel when it comes to the side content.
Hmm.
That's kind of that's the Bethesda flair. So I mean, but yeah, the CD Projekt Red though, they are normally the opposite, where like they have good side content. They're no slouches there, but their main story content is what people go for.
Hmm.
Like it's the like level of complexity and intrigue and immersion that is well that's what makes CD Projekt Red so desirable.
Hmm.
So what about you? What you got? What's your pick?
Uh, See, problem is unlike a lot of people, I only buy finished games. So I don't particularly feel like director's cuts are necessary. But, all jokes aside, I would love to see a director's cut for Yakuza Like a Dragon, only for the fact is I want more content for that game. And I feel like there's stuff they could have gone more in depth wise in certain side missions with certain characters that would have been really cool. So that's something would be, revisitable. Oh, wow, that's a mouthful. In a director's cut scenario. Um, but I have to admit, like, in terms of like director's cuts and everything else, like I'm not interested that much in Ghost of Tsushima's director's cut, but Death Stranding's director's cut, I'm 100% there for that. That's so interesting to me because it's like Kojima's like, "Hey, you want a wacky robot friend to deliver packages with?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, dude!" Like it just leans into the personality of the game, and I think that's what makes what's going to make certain directors' cuts better than others. All directors' cuts are not created equal.
Yep, that's true. All right, so we'll go to our next question here. This one comes from from our old friend Unlit Earl. Cheaters, when are you going to learn that Game Pass is killing the industry? According to People Can Fly, they haven't seen a dime of the Outsiders' money because Game Pass killed their sales. What have you got to say about that?
Do you want to jump in first? Or you want me to jump in?
All right, I'll jump in first.
All right.
All right, look. I'll say what I wanted to say originally in one of those Twitter Spaces therapy sessions. It sounds like People Can Fly got engaged in a buggy and faulted contract. Sounds like they need to go back to the go back to the publisher and expect to get a better deal and work out the kinks in their contract. But no, like in reality, though, to be more honest, I find it silly and extremely basic in terms of people's logic and trying to rationalize what happened here. So I'll start with number one. So let's address the Game Pass part because I feel like this is actually a smaller portion of it
Mm-hmm.
than anything else. I understand that's why people are giving it this much attention because it was one of the first big games that launched in Game Pass. So I understand that, and I want to address that part first. If Game Pass hurt the sales that bad, I thought Sony was the ones who was going to back up with the sales, right? This is the part that doesn't make any sense to me specifically. When we talk about Game Pass, when we talk about sales, it's a one out of two situation here. It's either Game Pass hurt the sales so bad that the game failed. But isn't PlayStation so dominant right now? Isn't PlayStation so strong in terms of the sales that wouldn't PlayStation completely annihilate it anyway?
So
And so if you're saying like, okay, well, we will talk about on the Xbox One, like the sales were 2-1. So by that same logic, every single title should at least be 60% PlayStation. Was out of the console market at least should be 60% PlayStation and 30% Xbox, right? That's what the logic would dictate.
right.
So, but we're, as people like to point out and say, oh well, the sales are so lopsided. PlayStation's holding everything up. It's like, all right, if that's the case, so if a game is make or break or not, is, I don't know, a million units or two the big issue. So, but on the flip side, it's like, all right, cool. Well, if the sales are not that big of a deal, then they're getting the user base. So I find this really dumb, at least in terms of the Game Pass argument.
So I'll talk about the Game Pass argument because we have to talk about People Can Fly versus Square Enix and what that's going to entail.
Yeah.
But the Game Pass argument doesn't. It makes sense to me why people are making the argument, but here's the thing. I think Game Pass is a double-edged sword when it comes to video games. I think if you make a really good video game and you get that word of mouth from Game Pass, you're going to experience really good sales and really good upticks. We've seen it. Most developers that have released high-rated games that come to Game Pass say they see sales spikes and, it trends upwards. However, on the flip side of that, we've also seen the opposite effect happen with bad games. You look at Another Day and Date 1, Dark Alliance. A lot of people skipped on buying that because impressions from people that played it via Game Pass weren't positive. And I think Outriders suffered from the fact that there was a ton of people playing it at launch because it was a big AAA game in Game Pass, which then absolutely affected everybody seeing all the issues that game had at launch. If Outriders had launched properly with proper servers, people not losing their gear and everything else, we will be talking about the success of Outriders. But it was everyone jumping on board and having negative experiences that drew them from continuing to play the game and then drew people's friends and audiences away from buying the game because of those experiences. So I think Game Pass is a double-edged sword in terms of if you make a good game, the people will come. If you make a bad game, you're going to sink your ship.
Yeah. And I think, too, at least in terms of the business side of things as well, I think that Game Pass really benefits either the big publishers or the people who are self-publishing, specifically.
Absolutely.
Because now, just this year alone, I can tell you 2 games that have partnered with publishers where the developers did not see any money from that deal for Game Pass. MLB The Show and Outriders.
Yep.
Because Sony didn't see that money from just them getting on Game Pass. MLB did. MLB got paid. They're the ones who got paid for this deal. And so, yeah, like it kind of sucks for People Can Fly because the deal was with Square. Square made the deal with Xbox, and so Square got paid for it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if their contract only talks about sales, that sucks for them. Yep. But that's the contract you entered.
Well, and see, the thing is people are going off the fact that People Can Fly hasn't been paid their royalties. The key word here is the royalties that have not been paid. Most of the time when these contracts are drafted, royalties are discussed when you hit a milestone. So say your milestone, for argument's sake, was you need to sell 1 million copies. And after 3 years, you've only sold 900,000 copies. You're not getting your royalties because that's the contract you signed.
Yep.
And I find it ironic because People Can Fly is talking about how they're not getting paid, but yet Square Enix was talking about how this was now a tentpole franchise for them. And that this was part, the future was bright for the franchise. But People Can Fly is like, well, where's my money? it's an interesting, situation to find themselves in. And let's be honest here, Square isn't a necessarily the most transparent business partner. We've seen someone's posting around, I saw it in Jeff Grubb's replies. Someone posted an interview from Yoko Taro, who of course is the director of Nier Automata, and he said a year after the release of Nier Automata, he didn't know past the game selling 1 million copies, and he hadn't been paid a cent yet from Square in terms of funds. So obviously Square's contracts are pretty hefty. And honestly, Square's Western expectations are just so ungrounded in reality. I don't know who comes up with their expectations, but they're all over the place when it comes to expectations versus reality.
No, whoever is running their Western division is from another planet. Like they do not. They're not based in reality. They're not thinking straight. I would say like another part that people don't understand about game development, especially when it comes to second party developers. In this case, normally when you have a deal like this, I want to make sure it's abundantly clear as well. People Can Fly has been paid. Their contract had them paid in the first place. Square puts the money up for development. They are completely funded through the development of the title. And after that, they just start getting royalties and then for sales. So I mean, they've already been paid. They sacrificed a lot to have a publisher do things for them. So that's up to them at that point. They made that choice. Now, at least in terms of the contract saying, like look, as you brought with Yoko Taro, I mean, I always look back at like with Tomb Raider, like the first Tomb Raider, the Tomb Raider reboot. They sold like 10 million copies, and Square called that a failure. And it's like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Or even more specifically, Avengers. They were given a golden IP, and then messed it up. They couldn't do it. So I mean, at this, I think the real issue, at least in this discussion, is not about, oh yeah, it's like Game Pass ruined it. I would really look more towards Square. That's what we should be focusing on, at least for this one. But hey, anything Game Pass related, right, gets attention.
Well, yeah, and see, People Can Fly listed a dozen reasons of why this could happen, and there was a singular sentence about the Game Pass deal possibly being a part of it. So that's what people latched onto, is because that's what they wanted to latch onto. But I don't even think people would have been talking about Outriders if it had been on Game Pass. Because if it released in the state it did, and it wasn't on Game Pass, it would have been bad. It would have been bad.
It would have been dead on arrival.
Yeah.
But people gave it a chance because it was on Game Pass. They were like, all right, we know you have problems. We'll wait a couple weeks.
Yep. And it took them way longer than it should have. Honestly.
Yep. That's right. So, all right. Anything else on this time before we move on?
Nope.
All right. Next question. You guys discussed the season of FPS last week. Now about Call of Duty being revealed, what do you guys think? Also, will we now see a Halo Infinite release date? This comes from Shock and Awe. I just watched the Call of Duty release date. Or the release date, the trailer that's just on the Xbox dashboard. Meh. Looks like Battlefield 5. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so unexcited by it. And like I saw just before we went live, Tom Henderson, who, leaks a lot of Call of Duty, Battlefield, and a lot of other stuff, says that we'll be seeing previews and footage from the D-Day mission from Vanguard. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. We're doing D-Day. And like, it'd be interesting to see if people did D-Day from a different perspective. or not, I'm not saying like, haha, you're the Nazis.
Let's be
It's like,
Germans.
yeah, I'm not saying that, but like, the more I play, the more Call of Duties I play and everything else, it just falls more and more into like, it feels like oorah American, hell yeah, kick stuff, blow stuff up. Like, I'm not gonna say it's military propaganda, but like some interesting interpretations of
Nick,
World War II.
pardon my French, but no shit. You hadn't realized Call of Duty's American war propaganda?
No, I just thought they were
The
fun video
United
games for a
the-
long time. Okay,
Oh my
like,
god. The United States government gives money to Activision for these games. This is not anything new.
but
This has been going on for a long time. If you don't realize, pardon me for getting political for a moment, the United States government wastes a shit ton of money on propaganda. Like the whole, oh, let's go stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance thing, or not Pledge of Allegiance, but do the national anthem. That didn't used to be a thing. After 9/11, that became a thing. But also, the United States government was putting money into this sort of thing.
yeah,
They were putting money into sporting events. They, like, why do you think all the Transformers movies in particular? Like, oh yeah, like, they always skew it so the Americans are the good guys. Even when the story has us the Americans are not the good guys, they will make it somehow. Like, oh well, it's a Splinter shadow section of the government. It wasn't the real United States. Like, they do that on purpose. Like, the whole point is the United States government withholds. Not only will they withhold funds from a movie, but sometimes they will even make it so. Like, I know in the case specifically with Transformers, if they wanted access to military vehicles so they could do certain scenes or go to certain locations, the United States government had to sign off on it. So that's why they always made the story pro-American in some regard. So that's what they've always done. And in video games, it's slightly different, but kind of the same thing. They give money. Like, why do you think they always put Call of Duty as close as they can to Veterans Day?
oh yeah. Well, I always knew that. That was blatantly
Yeah.
obvious. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that it clearly is American military propaganda, but they're more blatant about it now, and it feels way more offensive when they're like, "Hey, look, you could be a black woman and die in war too." Like, it just feels so much worse now than it did before, and it's so grating with everything we know about what's going on with like the whole Activision Blizzard lawsuit for them to just walk in and be like, "Hey, here's your Call of Duty, be excited for it." It's like, guys, the hell. Like,
I didn't see them really. When did they officially show the first trailer? Was it today?
no, there was a trailer earlier in the week, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I knew there was one where like they had a bunch of like teaser shots or something like that, and I was like, all right, whatever. But I knew, but it didn't like have any characters or anything involved like that. So I literally had not heard or seen anything about it. And if that's the case, and normally I'm definitely hooked in with the Twitter gaming community. No one talked about it. Like, that's insane. I didn't see anything on trending about it at all. I was just like, all right, there it is. I really just saw the first trailer today, and I only found it because Xbox put it up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, like I said, I think it looks like Battlefield 5 specifically. Like, the way they're marketing it is like, oh, it's all of World War II, every front. Like that's their big marketing tagline. It's every front of World War II.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what Battlefield 5 is. Like, that's literally it. And like, Battlefield 5 got raked over the coals for including women. And like, oh yeah, this isn't close to the sim, and so yeah, Call of Duty's gonna get away with it. But I don't think anyone's making a big deal about that specifically.
Well, actually,
Yeah, like I said
I
before, it
think
doesn't.
they directly indicated in like the press releases and stuff that this was an alternative reality of World War II or something. And if you're gonna do a creative interpretation of World War II, just do Wolfenstein. God damn it! Don't be a coward. Like,
Well, they don't own Wolfenstein. Microsoft owns Wolfenstein. They can't do Wolfenstein.
no, but that's what I mean. Like, if you're gonna manipulate history, don't do it so you can sell cosmetics.
Ooh, this would be a cool idea. So I like reading alt history books.
Right.
I do enjoy it. There's a series called Guns of the South.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna pitch this to you. I want you to keep a straight face as long as you can. Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
All right.
All right. I'm ready.
So the premise of this whole thing, this became like a series afterwards, mind you. This became a series. It starts off during the American Civil War, where Lincoln meets with Robert E. Lee at some point. After this meeting, terrorists from the future show up in front of Robert E. Lee's house and provide him AK-47s and a bunch of modern day technology. And not only that, but then show him how to use it, give him nitroglycerin pills to help with his heart condition so he would live longer. And then they're like, all right, we got to go, whatever. I'm not going to go into any more specifics than that. It drastically changes the timeline. So the idea was that the terrorists in particular believed that, oh, if the South wins the Civil War, it'll set things along the right timeline. It'll fix everything in the future. Instead, what they do is they just win the Civil War and then destroy the guns and all the future tech, and then just have America in two different countries. So there's the Confederate States of the Confederate States of America, and then the United States of America to the north. And what ends up happening is the timeline, like because of the inclusion of that technology starts ramping up a lot faster. So the next one is like World War One, and it's called the book's called The American Front. And that one, they basically have World War II technology during World War One, and because the United States and the Confederate States exist, the war does not take place in Europe. It takes place in the United States, but it's like I said, it's turn of the century, but with World War II era technology. So people got like like machine guns and just tanks and all that stuff. But like Woodrow Wilson's like the president of the Confederacy, and Teddy Roosevelt's like on his third term in the United States. But then like World War II happens, and then the like aliens show up, and it gets really weird. I'm like, yeah, if you're gonna go alt history, do that.
Oh, I'm still trying to get around the time traveling terrorists that dropped Robert E. Lee the Gat to lay waste to the north. Like, what?
It's crazy, man. Oh man, those books are fun. But if you're gonna do alt history, go crazy with it.
Yeah.
Don't just be like, hey, we have a perpetual war, man. It keeps going on into the 60s. It's like boring. I don't want that.
And it just feels like I said, it feels like they're doing the alternative stuff so they can avoid the flack Battlefield got for it.
Yeah.
And
But I don't think anyone cares like that with Call of Duty. No one's asked for like historical accuracy for Call of Duty.
I want Call of Duty Modern Warfare to be truly authentic to when the Russians and the Americans blew the bejesus out of each other on American land. Thanks. But yeah, no, I don't have any interest. There's so many games coming out right now, and I just have zero interest in wasting any time with Call of Duty and supporting Activision in any way.
Yeah. Well, the follow-up part of that question, what do you think this means for Halo, though? Where do you think Halo's going to place themselves?
November. After Battlefield drops, after Call of Duty drops, because it's Battlefield October 22nd, Call of Duty November 5th, and I guarantee you Halo locks in its anniversary.
The November 9th? Is that what it is?
Is it the 9th or the...
Like the Halo 1 launch?
Yeah.
I see that was
November 15th, 2001.
that fits. That fits. November 15th.
November
That
15th.
that's a good launch. Let's see.
That would
15th would
put
be
that would be on a Monday.
that would work. Let's see. Because the 11th would be Veterans Day, 15th would be a Monday, and then that gives you 2 weeks and you end on the holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work. It'd
Fif-
be like the go-to game to get for Black Friday.
yep. 15th or 19th is my prediction.
Yep. Sounds yeah, I think they go for it. It's close enough to that Tuesday, so that makes sense for them. Uh,
And I think it's smart to launch Halo 2 weeks after Call of Duty because Call of Duty Cold War launched, had a lot of issues, and a lot of players bounced off of it and were looking for something else.
yeah.
Because Call of Duty always does that. It launches, it's a mess, people are mad about it, people look for alternatives, and then eventually go back to Call of Duty. But if they find an alternative that's fun, they can lock into, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, shot.
Yeah.
So hey, that works. I think you're on the right track there. So let's see, 15th. That'd be really cool. Either 15th or 16th. It depends on what they're going to do with that. 15th would make sense just because it's so close anyway. But I can see them doing something like, oh, Halo Infinite Ultimate Edition, play the weekend before, like they do with Gears.
Yeah.
So I can see them doing that. So anyway, moving right along. Next little question here. All right, so Fortnite is at it again, stealing content from other more popular games and repackaging it at their as their own. This time they are taking Among Us concepts and doing Fortnite imposters. What do you think, Cousin Jesse? I'm gonna guess what they're talking about stealing content wise. I know there was the whole thing about PUBG, where PUBG kind of became like the granddaddy of battle royale games initially back in like 2017. And so where everybody was talking about PUBG and it started making clones associated with it. So Fortnite doing it, yeah, sounds about right for that. Other than that, I don't know of any instances where they're stealing content from anybody else. But I mean, I guess like you could say like, okay, the dances and stuff, but
I think that's more what they're referencing to is like, you know, the whole Fallout debate, you know, using other creators' dances, monetizing other people's creations. I think that's the insinuation.
Yeah. That sounds about right. But all right, so Among Us in particular, it's a small studio. It's only a handful of people, and they remember this game came out like years and years ago. Like Among Us came out a good long time. It just didn't start getting popular until quarantine.
Yep, it's one of the first games that benefited from COVID lockdowns.
Yep, where it was like, hey, yeah, people were looking for an alternative that was cheap. And what was the game everyone else was trying to do? Oh, Fall Guys. That's what it was. People were like, I don't want to pay money for Fall Guys.
Yeah,
so here we go.
It literally went Animal Crossing to Fall Guys to then to Among Us.
Yep. Where it was people were like, oh yeah, Among Us looks kind of like Fall Guys in terms of design. Two entirely different games. But hey, close enough.
Yep.
So people look for the alternative, and Among Us definitely benefited. I think specifically with doing a copy of something else in terms of a mode, I mean, I don't think it's like a huge deal as long as you're not just straight copying things. Where it's like, okay, if they go in there, they're like, you're playing the game, and let's say you and I are playing Nick, and like I get a pop up and it says like Nick is being sus. And it's like, no, please don't do that. Use your own terminology at least. or like, oh, you're the imposter. Like, mix it up a little bit, like just for marketing's sake. But I've looked at some of the stuff, and was it the map that they have is almost a straight copy of the map
Mm-hmm.
from Among Us, with the exception that they flipped like the 2 large rooms, and that's it. So they straight up copied it. So I don't know. Part of it I think is lazy, but it is only a timed event, so I don't really mind it, I guess.
Well, it's also worth noting too that Epic says one of the main differences is that Fortnite imposters is spelled with an O versus an E. This is an actual thing that somebody said, that their differentiation factor is it's Fortnite imposters with an O and Among Us is imposters with an E.
I need to start drinking.
So here's my thing. I'm not going to sit there and pretend like games copying games hasn't been an important step in the games industry. I quoted this on Gaming Perspective. I'm going to quote it here because, once again, Doc is brilliant and just puts things together in a really easy way to understand. Is like, we'll use Doom 1993 for an example. A lot of games copied Doom 1993 in its aesthetic, its design, how the game itself functioned. A lot of that happened. But that's not what's going on here, because Among Us didn't invent social deduction games. Right? They just presented it in this way. This would be what Epic Games is doing with Fortnite, is the same thing as if someone came out with a retro FPS game called Doomed, and it starred Doomed Guy with the super doomed shotgun. Like, it's this, that would be the level that you would have to reach this.
Yeah.
And I think that's my problem with it. And it was the same problem I had with Fortnite going to a Battle Royale game. It was just like, we have this unique PvE co-op mode that we're trying to sell people on. Oh, wow, PUBG's popular. Scrap it. Let's do that. Like, that PvE mode was basically abandoned the day the Battle Royale mode launched.
The first abandoned.
The first
Not to be
abandoned.
confused with the second abandoned.
But I just... the reason it doesn't sit right with me personally is because Tim Sweeney is out there suing Apple right now. And with, he's not suing Apple personally. Epic Games is suing Apple. And, they're doing all these publishing deals with these indie studios because, Tim Sweeney's all about, I'm fighting for the little guy. And then you turn around and basically steal from the little guy if it benefits you or if it's taking away from your possible audience. It's just, it's gross. And it sucks. But Epic is going to Epic because honestly, Epic Games hasn't done anything creative internally in years. And that just is what it is, unfortunately.
No, I find it absolutely sickening for them because they have allowed themselves to grow stagnant, and I understand adapting your game. Mm-hmm. But this comes off as we really don't want to do that anymore, and we would rather just do what we can to be popular as long as we possibly can. Because this is how they're making money. We know this. Like, this is how they've been making money now.
Well,
like, this is the only profitable game they have.
Well, and the thing is with Fortnite, too, is that the game itself is so adaptable to whatever they want to sell you. Right? Yeah. Like, oh, a Fortnite character skin? Oh, every company under the sun that has licensed characters is realizing there's a lot of money to be had there.
Yep.
Like, Marvel, DC, everybody's taking that money to the bank and running with it. And, more power to them and whatnot. If the demand wasn't there, they wouldn't make it. But the thing is Fortnite in itself, the base gameplay loop that it is is so transformable that Fortnite can literally rip off anything they want, essentially.
Yeah, it's what they call, what is it, like corporate art, where it's just so generic it works.
Yep. It it's just basically copying and following the trend of what works and just running with it. Battle Royale was hugely popular, still is. But, you know, Fortnite's constantly chasing that next thing. That's why we've seen concerts, we've seen all sorts of different stuff. Some good things, some bad things, everything else. And they have taken some risks in regards to what they were doing more early on than now in terms of the events and everything else. But, like, it's a cash cow, and they're going to milk that cash cow. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right on that. They're going to try to make money on it. Like I said, I just wish that they would at least try to make it look different. Like, so
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway. Yeah, next one. All right, what's the deal with the UK sales chart? It's like every time I turn around, Sony drones bring up the UK sales chart, how Xbox is so shit. Should I care? From Weevils Are Mine. Okay. What do we got?
So,
Nick, what's the deal with the Sony chart? Oh, sorry, the chart.
So the UK chart's an interesting chart. It's a physical only chart, as far as I'm trying to remember all the intricacies to this. It's a physical copies only chart. It does not track digital sales, so it's only physical sales within the UK. The UK physical market has been on a downswing for the better part of 6 years. They have very low physical attach rates in the UK as a general rule of thumb. And that
and especially the last year and a half with COVID. And there are many lockdowns.
Yeah, with COVID, digital sales are spiking incredibly high in the UK. So this represents maybe optimistically 25% of the games sold in the UK. But the skewing on this always goes one direction. And the reason this always goes one direction is because of PlayStation's dominance in Europe. PlayStation dominates Europe. Period. End of story. It's like last generation with Xbox One, PlayStation 4. PlayStation dominated Xbox like 3-1, I think, 4-1 in Europe and the UK. So that's a PlayStation stomping ground, essentially. So you're talking 25% of the sales only accounted for because they're only physical. It's a PlayStation home turf situation. So that skews your data a bit. Now, I don't want people to think I'm saying this data isn't good. It's valuable data, but the problem with data is it's all in how you present your data. And I'll use this as an example, just so that people can, say I'm not only throwing skepticism at Sony numbers. Xbox, how they report their financial numbers for Xbox. We just went through this a few weeks ago. They're up 172%. Wow, that sounds like a really amazing figure. But is it, 172% could simply be, 17 over 10. Or whatever the math. I'm bad at math. Do not trust me on percentages to equal numbers and everything else. But the thing is when you start representing data in percentages and things like that, it skews it in a certain direction. And you can skew data to look whatever way you want it to. And you'll see that with some articles when you see, PlayStation records 80% of this game's sales in the UK charts. It's a really good headline and people are going to click on it. But 80% of the physical UK charts, that's like saying, well, PlayStation sold 100 games or 100 copies and Xbox sold 10 copies or whatever the case may be. It's not indicative of worldwide. There's a worldwide chart that covers like the Middle East and areas of Africa in terms of console sales and software sales, but people don't follow that. People don't write about that because people don't care about that. All people care about is MPD and the UK physical charts. And the reason why is because they have consistent release dates. UK physical charts updates every week, and MPD is once a month.
Yep.
And that's why
that's why I hear about it.
And that's why you hear about it. Is it's an insight into data that people are interested in, and it's released on a regular basis. And it's important data, but people oversell what that data represents.
Yeah. No, I think you nailed it, dude. Like, people like to use it again because it is consistent, and that's what they are looking for specifically. And I think it really picked up with them specifically. It was whenever Xbox stopped reporting official numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Once they stopped doing that, we started looking towards the secondary, all the reporters and such, simply so we could get something else. Like, that's why we saw like the NPD really started jumping up, at least in the gaming community side of things. That's where we started seeing, the UK physical charts. It's when Xbox stopped doing it. Now, if Xbox were to come back and they were like, all right, we're starting to report numbers again, for at least for consoles, things would be a little bit different at that point. Now, at least in terms of this one, I'll break it down a little differently, at least in terms of how to look at it. So if the UK is, let's be generous, 10% of the world market. Let's say the UK gets to dictate 10% of the world market itself. Mm. So out of all the other countries and everywhere else, one island in Europe is somehow indicative of the entire rest of the world.
Yes.
Is what people are trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
But
imperialism is over.
Yeah, but
at least for them.
But I think the root cause of it, to answer, our listener question at its core, the reason why you see console war chest beatings about the UK physical charts is it always swings a specific way. And that's why you're always going to see one group, browbeating it and another group downplaying it. Yeah. Like a perfect example, I do on LogNet, I do an article once every week. It's the top 10 best-selling games on Steam, and that's by dollar value. And that list fluctuates week to week to week to week to week. But it's a representative list. You can get an idea of a lot of things because the list is indicative of Steam itself. So it's like, what are people on Steam putting their money towards? That's more of an interesting number because it encapsulates more people. And that's why MPD is so interesting for a lot of people, is because it represents so much more of a pie than the UK physical market. And even I personally, one of the data sources I like watching the top 5 most downloaded PlayStation games when they break it down by region, because you will never see the North American list match up with the European list. They're almost always completely different, without the exception of maybe one game. And I think that's why sales data is so interesting. It's why I enjoy sales data, is because what's appealing to me isn't appealing to someone in Germany, to, Australia and back again. And I think that's what sales data is useful for, but that's not what the community uses sales data for.
Yeah. I mean, sales data is always interesting. It's better to have too much information than not enough. So
yeah,
I'm okay with that, but it is a very interesting change for them. Mm-hmm. So anyway, other than that, I think we would focus on sales data a lot less as well if things were a little closer. I think that's also the major thing right now, is like, part of it is people are very quick to wanting to judge who the winner of a generation is. Like there's the old saying of like first to 10 million wins.
Right.
And I still argue that in terms of like winning a generation is more of a mind space and where people are thinking. I still personally believe that. I don't think it's necessarily about the units sold. Like I think Sony won definitively last generation because everything was from the lens of what is Sony doing.
See,
Like
for me, with PlayStation in particular, and I look at generations as being more of a marathon in terms of what you can do. And the reason why PlayStation to me won is because their late game was phenomenal. Basically, once they got past the rough patch that was like 2013 to 2015, and even then there were some good games in there. 2017 to 2020 was just phenomenal. There was at least 3 massive games from them a year, every year, that people were talking about on end.
Yep.
And that's how they won last generation, is they had that mind share where people were always looking forward to that next big experience. And there's something to be said for that. That's an amazing way to do business, and that's an amazing way to keep your players happy. But I think it's also important to note that things can change. Like, I don't understand why we exist in a space where people can't see Microsoft growing without Sony detracting. Because both companies are growing rapidly, and it's because gaming is bigger than it's ever been. So the people that are like, well, if Xbox isn't measuring up to where PlayStation is now, it's a failure. No, because if you compare it to Xbox to its previous successes, it's phenomenally much higher now. And I think it's more important to measure these companies against themselves versus what their competition's doing. And that's more important now than ever because both companies have completely different marketing strategies on how they want to sell their products to the consumer.
Yeah. That's true. And I also do, if you're going to compare them in what they're offering service-wise. Or like compare them on a one-to-one game basis. I think those are fair comparisons because like here's an example, and this is an example no one wants to talk about. Microsoft owns Havoc.
Right.
Almost every game that comes out uses Havoc assets in some possible way.
Right.
Microsoft's making money on basically every game sold.
Yep.
That's ridiculous. That's insane. It's insane.
Well, but to your point on that, though, is that's their goal. That's their end game goal with this. Is people talk about Xbox Game Studios. Look how much it's grown. Look how much it's growing. No one talks about Xbox Game Stack or Microsoft Game Stack. Yep. They've got engines on engines on engines in there that they're constantly making money off of stuff they don't even publish or necessarily have their hands in. It's licensing money. And that's why I always laugh at people that are like, well, Microsoft can't make money on Game Pass. It's like, they don't need to. Game Pass is the PR move. Everything else is the moneymaker.
Yeah, they're literally just making money. Like, think of it this way. Actually, if you think of Game Pass in that regard, that's actually a very interesting idea. If you say, hey, we make money based on if you get your game out the door, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll make sure your game ships. Like, we'll make sure it goes on Game Pass. You have the security there, but buy Havoc. Use GameStat. That's great.
Well, I kind of believe like Game Pass is like your lost leader. Like, you know how like a grocery store, for example. I worked in grocery retail for a long time. And it'd be like, we put steaks on 50% off. Well, steak going on sale is really rare. And, we're selling it at a loss, so we're going to lose money. No. You come in for the steak, and then you do all your other grocery shopping there. So we lost $5 on the steak, but normally you wouldn't shop here, and you just spent another $100 and something here. That's what Game Pass is. Game Pass is the $5 stake to get you in the door, and then there's a high chance that you'll invest more as you use the ecosystem more.
Well, what kind of grocery store was it? Just out of curiosity, was it like one of the upscale grocery stores, or was it more of like a like the bottom barrel? Like, what were we talking about?
We'll call it a large corporate grocery store.
Okay, so like a baseline kind of one. All right,
Yeah.
so like I was in the same position, but for us it's like yeah, like cookouts are normally very popular. But like I remember during the holidays specifically, I worked for Lowe's Foods.
Right.
That's where I used to work. Which to give if you're here in the United States, to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. It's a step up from Food Lion, but not quite Fresh Market. So, or Whole Foods. It's right in that in between space.
Stairs in Canadian.
I haven't worked there. I haven't worked there forever. Like I the last thing I remember was they said, "Oh yeah, we hired a guy from Disney World to redesign our store experience."
Our
And I
store
was after
experience.
that. I'll tell you about it, dude. It is wild. You walk in there, it is like, hey, you want to cut your own herbs? And like they have stations for you to go and cut your own. Like, hey, you want some fresh mint? Cut off your own little pieces of mint, and then you put it in a bag. If you go up to like they have like a place where they do fried chicken, where you can just get fried chicken for like $5. Like that is their loss leader there.
Right.
Like you can get fried chicken dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Like how much? Like if you went to KFC or somewhere up there, how much would you pay for a whole chicken, like an 8-piece meal?
An 8-piece meal up here is like $30.
Yeah, no, here it's like $5. Yeah, this is like a thing here. So,
All right.
like they lose money on that. I think nowadays it's like 7, but that's what it used to be back when I worked there.
Yeah, yeah. So you come in, you buy your $7 fried chicken. So they're losing money on that chicken, but you're probably gonna pick up a potato salad because your aunt makes garbage potato salad, and you're also probably gonna pick up some macaroni salad because once again, same aunt, terrible salad. And then these are strictly white people problems, but
no. I'll say this much: if you are in a family that makes ambrosia, go away. Don't reproduce anymore. Just stop.
I'm pretty sure ambrosia's illegal in Canada. Thank God.
It just looks disgusting. I think about it and I just like I get sick.
This topic really took a detour.
Talking about loss leaders.
Everyone's a loss leader in ambrosia salad.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that answers the question there.
Yep.
All right. Oh, subtopic question because I'm just interested. Kratos versus Master Chief. Who do you got? Battle to the death. Never seen each other before.
See, I was here for this argument in the party last night, but I was very long gone by the time we got into that question, and I really don't.
We know you were long gone. So here's the conditions of the fight first. I want to throw this out first because this is important. So in this fight, they've never seen each other before.
Okay.
They're carrying the weapons they would normally carry, like just by default.
Okay. So Chief's got like a rifle basically then.
Yeah, he's basically got his assault rifle, Covenant sword, grenades, and maybe some like random utility things like the dome shield or whatever. That's kind of it. But like Kratos, we're gonna say for this one, we're gonna say baseline Kratos from the last outing that we saw. He's got his axe and his blades of chaos. So never seen each other before. It's kind of like an impromptu fight to the death. What do you got?
See, I'm mixed on this one because I'm like, those blades would fuck him up so hard. But then I'm like, energy sword though. Like, we've seen Kratos get injured, but we've never seen him like cut in half.
Yeah.
He's older, he's slower. So I give Chief the speed advantage. But Kratos has the regeneration, and they don't really explain how far that regeneration works.
Yeah. But it seems to take a lot out of him to regenerate.
Yeah, like I feel like he hits a point where he's just not able to regenerate if you beat him down enough.
Yeah.
If it's a squared off fight, I've got Chief just because, you know, he could clip Kratos like half a mag before Kratos even gets to him. Kratos could throw the axe, and there's variables like that, but like if he keeps it at a distance, I got Chief. If it gets into physicality, I've got Kratos. Like if it came down, if it came down to straight throwing hands, I got Kratos every day because that's what he does.
Yeah. I think for me, I look at it as, at least in terms of the durability factor, I would say Chief, strictly because, like, this is coming from a guy who does not care about Halo whatsoever. Like, I'll play it because my friends are playing it, but that's pretty much it. I would give the durability to Chief, namely because, like, he was in that, like, with a Mark III or Mark IV armor and, like, survived re-entry from space. Like that.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that is total bullshit. I'm like, that part alone, like, I don't think Kratos could survive that.
Right.
I don't think he could. So, based on just durability aspect, I'd give it to Chief for that alone. The speed factor, I don't know. I mean, Chief's reaction time is good, but I don't know if he could beat Kratos on like a foot race kind of thing, like top speed kind of thing. I don't know about that. I'd give the strength to Kratos strictly because he's a demigod status.
Yeah.
I would definitely give him that much. I think it ultimately boils down to the weapons that they use. And, like, I don't know how much damage the Blades of Chaos actually do to anything. Like, I don't know if they're, like, because if you think about it, like, when he's swirling them around, most time it's just fire damage people are taking, right?
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of cuts to that. It's not like butchering people in half, necessarily. So, I mean, I want to say that, like, Chief could take that. At least the Blades of Chaos. Now, being choked out, that's a different story.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. At least in terms of, like, you know, the chains themselves. The axe, I feel like Kratos using it effectively could do some damage there with the axe itself, like going for weak points in armor and such. But in terms of like hand-to-hand combat, they're both Spartans. But the difference, I think, is that Chief has more hand-to-hand combat experience strictly because he's been basically reprogrammed to fight specifically. And yeah, Kratos has lived that life entirely, but in terms of like, I never see him using any like real hand-to-hand combat skills. It's pretty much bar brawling for what I can see, but I would assume he's at least trained in like Spartan hand-to-hand combat, but Chief's trained in more than that.
Right.
So I feel like tactically, if they were in a fight, like a straight hand-to-hand fight, I'd probably give it to Chief just because he's got the durability factor and better training. But in terms of weapons and stuff, I give the weapon advantage probably to, well, I don't know. I feel like it's about even, actually. The only thing I think that actually would do some damage to Kratos, like, okay, let's be honest, guns are not going to affect Kratos. Like, his base is like the durability on his skin alone is pretty high. I would say enough to like take out some small arms fire. So I think he'd be okay there. But I just don't think it would boil down to that ultimately. I think it would get down to like kind of like the beginning of God of War, well, the God of War reboot.
Yeah.
It would get down to that point where it's like, all right, we're gonna we're getting hand-to-hand combat going all over the place, and I think it's a pretty close fight more than usual, but I think it's strictly if you analyze those factors, it's a closer fight than that.
Yeah.
I think it's a toss-up personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a toss-up. It's kind of like if you took like a career bar brawler and put him against a special forces operator. Yeah, the special forces operator has experience and everything else, but that bar brawler probably knows some really dirty tricks that they're not ready for.
Yeah, and even then, like it's basically if you did that, but you gave the bar brawler like morphine.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't feel anything. Let's go.
Yeah, like it's such a hard call to judge because like this is Kratos. We've watched this man punch through boulders like they're cheese.
Yeah. But it's also boulders. And I'm like, eh. So, I mean, yeah, he's definitely strong. It's just little BS moments where it's like, I can't ignore that. Like, it literally the one moment that's even making me say that, like, that's making me hesitate on just saying Kratos is the fact that Chief survived re-entry from space.
Yeah,
slammed
like
into the earth.
Yeah, like can Kratos punch harder than that? That's the question.
I want to say no.
Yeah, because honestly, I feel like, and like people can take this however they will. I think people oversell Kratos' strength, especially in God of War 2018, because he struggled with Baldur. Baldur is basically the wimp of Norse mythology.
Yeah.
He was kind of like the nerd everybody picked on.
I would say picked on. I thought everybody liked Baldur. Like, wasn't that like the whole thing with him? Like, the only reason he became like somewhat immortal was there was a trick done by Loki. I'm literally pulling this out of my ass, so please correct me if I get my Norse mythology wrong. Wasn't there like a thing where like Baldur, like he had only one weakness and it was mistletoe, and Loki convinced a blind god to shoot him with an arrow made of mistletoe, and he died. And in order to bring him back, like it was, oh yeah, Odin made everyone like say, oh yeah, say you love my son, and we'll bring him back. And Loki disguised as somebody else was like, nah.
The real story here is that Loki is an absolute dickhead.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I would say he got picked on, but yeah, he was definitely like not even like the strongest fighters. So I personally think the next God of War was going to happen is Kratos is going to die.
Oh yeah, I think you're gonna watch Thor just absolutely pound the bejesus. It just beat the brakes right off Kratos.
Yep, and I can see them doing something like that where he just beats the crap out of him and kills him, and Atreus is like, "All right, let's start Ragnarok."
Yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah, well, like, you know, spoiler alert for the 2018 God of War, shut your ears. With the reveal of him being Loki, they've got to get him on a revenge path. How do you get him on a revenge path? Kill his dad.
Yep.
But we will have to wait and see.
Yep. All right. Main topic for this evening. So, I'll let you go ahead and let's kick us off there. What's our main topic this evening, Nick?
Well, you know, you and me are kind of known for a lot. We're known for a lot of things. But the main thing we're known for is our love for Bethesda properties. And, of course, today, and over the next 2 days, 3 days, sorry, in total, QuakeCon is happening right now. And there's a surprising amount of smaller announcements today that kind of kicked off QuakeCon. And typically, QuakeCon's like a cool fan celebration, and there's usually some small things, but we typically don't see releases or, big stuff at QuakeCon. But we actually saw the return of Quake to actually not even the return of Quake, a remastered version of Quake, which is hitting consoles. So this marks the first time that the original Quake has been available on consoles, I believe. I could be wrong on that. I don't know if it came on N64 or not, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, you have any background with Quake or no?
I never got around to Quake, honestly. I got very confused. I thought Quake was Doom originally. I was like, whatever. So no, I totally missed out on Quake.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I played all those games around that time. Like I played Wolfenstein 3D, I played Doom 1993, I played Heretic, which was another similar styled game, and I also played all the really really god awful spin-offs to like Blood, and my personal favorite, Redneck Rampage. That was so dumb. Um, but I'm seeing a lot of people getting interested in Quake now. It's ironic too, really, is it was called QuakeCon, but Quake as an IP has been fairly dormant for a long time in terms of mainstream popularity. And now they've got a remastered game. It's on consoles now. It's available on PlayStation, Xbox, PC. It feels like they're gearing up to make Quake a big deal again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, for those of you who have not played Quake, because I played it before we started the show and a little bit during, I gotta say this: Quake is fast. Like, just even like it's just insanely fast. Like even like if you're used to playing old school Doom, like you're moving at least twice as fast as that, and like just trying to get people is ridiculous. Like when you're playing a multiplayer,
Oh yeah.
dude, it's insane.
Yeah, and if you're playing on console, do yourself a favor, go into the settings, turn off the mandatory crossplay with PC, because you will not, under any circumstances, fare well against Quake PC players, and like not
Yeah.
even a little bit. But yeah, so we saw the return of Quake, and another beloved Bethesda game is coming back again for the like 16th time. We're getting a Skyrim special edition.
Really?
With
No fooling.
no fooling, we getting Skyrim again. This time it's not for Amazon Alexa; it's for your Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5s. To celebrate the anniversary of the game, it comes out November 11th. Are you going to invest in our Lord and Savior Skyrim for the fourth time? It's got fishing.
Are they charging? What are they charging for it?
I don't know. I don't know right now. I didn't see a price on it.
Do they say what they're gonna do to it?
Hold on.
I need details, man. Details. I'm not just some cheap Skyrim whore. I need to know.
Well, see, I am, so. Skyrim was the first game that my wife ever bought me when we were in high school. She sold her Nintendo DS to buy me Skyrim at launch. And I spent so much time in that game. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous.
I'll tell you my Skyrim story because it's ridiculous, honestly. So this is gonna be so bad. All right, so I didn't have a 360 until 2011. I turned 18. My uncle gave it to me as a gift. I got the 250 gigabyte slim model, and I thought it was like the coolest thing in the world. And I remember I left it at home because my roommate for college was gonna have a 360. I didn't see a reason to have two of them. So my roommate was he got around. He had different women at the college every night, and I was extremely passive and didn't really know how to say no to anybody. and that was a moral failing on my part at the time. So my days would basically be, all right, I would go to class, come back, go get something for dinner, do my homework, and then kill time. And so he'd be busy. He like basically after 6 o'clock, like they were in there all the time. And I was like, damn, I need something to do and kill time with. Is it, oh yeah, I pirated Skyrim, and he had a disc where he had burned it on there. And I played Skyrim on with a pirated disc on his 360. So I had never played an RPG before, at least not like that. I had, I guess the deepest RPG I had ever played up to that point was Pokemon. And I just never really got into RPGs before, but I remember my first time playing. I was like, oh, okay. I'll play as, I don't know, an Imperial, and I guess magic's cool, so I'll be an Imperial mage. And I remember I walked down, I like skipped everything and went straight to Whiterun. I don't know, I literally was just walking around and just ended up in Whiterun. And I remember because I got the buttons confused and like killed somebody with like frost magic or something. And I'm so sorry. Like I attacked somebody, and they were like, "We remember you." And I ran away and like went to Winterhold. And again, I'm not looking at the map or anything. I'm just going places. So I go all the way to Winterhold, become like the Archmage, and come back, and the guards of Winterhold the guards of Whiterun arrest me. I was like, what? How can you remember that? That was months ago.
You're saying they're like, I'm a wizard now.
No, I was like, this is bull.
See, I think what I love most about Skyrim, because this is just going to devolve into Skyrim love talk anyway.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about Skyrim was it was one of the first games where I felt like role playing a physical character within the game, and like my goddamn skooma addicted Khajiit thief remains one of my favorite playthroughs of Skyrim of all time. It's like, I'm high on skooma. Can I pickpocket Alduin during this cutscene?
Jeez.
But like it was just so great because Skyrim really felt like one of those games where it didn't force you to be good or bad or whatever. You literally just did whatever you wanted. Like I got the game at launch. I don't think I defeated Alduin till like 2014.
Yeah, I definitely didn't do it until like my third character.
Yeah, like I sat there and I was like, oh, I'm like the Archmage, I'm the leader of the Shadow Guild, I'm leader of this, I'm leader of that, and I'm like, wasn't there a dragon that I was supposed to kill? And I just basically run up and one smack him by the end of the game.
Yeah. I had my second character was I did a Khajiit as well, but that was where I started like getting into like, oh, this is the Brotherhood thief kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was just doing that. But then my third character was my favorite character. I actually did the role playing and like actually focused on it, like, all right, I'm gonna play how he would play. And so my character was a dark elf. I don't even know what he was necessarily. He was a vampire though. And I didn't have the vampire DLC.
Oh,
so
where
I
they make it
intentionally
easier to
hampered
be a
myself.
vampire.
Yeah, or they actually gave you powers and benefits to being a vampire. This time I just know I literally went into like in the Helgen's cave so I could get vampirism from the jump. So I got vampirism and went to Riften, and I started the game in Riften. I didn't even go anywhere else. So that was what I did, and I thought it was a blast. Like I had like a whole backstory. His name was Dracul. His parents were in Winterhold. His mom did like low level like incantations and shit. But his dad was a blacksmith. But there was racism in Winterhold, and he got lynched. And so actually what ended up happening was like he kind of swore off No, he would never wear ebony mail armor because that was his dad's specialty, and it hurts him. It reminds him of it, so he wouldn't wear it. And so he would do a little bit of like restoration magic on himself, strictly because that's what his mom taught him to do. Like I had like this whole backstory written out for every little thing that he did, and like why he did it, and all this stuff. So I wrote this whole thing out, and I was like, this is my character, and that was the most rewarding gameplay I ever had with him. Because it was like, all right, my choices are entirely dictated by this.
Yeah. And I think
it felt great. I loved it.
I think that's what makes Bethesda RPGs so special, because people are always like, well, they're technically not that impressive, and it's not like they have incredibly memorable performances. So what's the appeal? The appeal is being a character. You're not playing somebody, you're playing a character that you've created. And that's why Western RPGs have always appealed to me more than JRPGs. Because it's like, in JRPGs, it's like, you're the hero so-and-so, and this is what you're going to do. I'm like, I'm not really getting the role-playing thing. I'm seeing a path that I'm supposed to follow, and a story that I have very little influence over how it outcomes. And to me, that just isn't an RPG. Because an RPG is a role-playing game. And like, I don't know. Role playing as a goody two shoe just does not get my dick going. And that's why.
I've done playthroughs like that. Normally the first time, like, oh yeah, I want to play good, but like you gotta. That's why I don't like games where like the moral is very clear. This is the good and this is the bad. I like it when it's very gray.
Yeah.
That makes it interesting.
Yeah. Where it's like, oh, I'm helping a kid. I'm going to be the good guy. Oh, wait. The child was a serial killer. That was a bad decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, Skyrim's great. The anniversary, I looked it up. So where'd it go? The anniversary edition for fans looking to commemorate the 10th anniversary of Skyrim or newcomers ready to take their first step into Tamriel. It'll be coming November 11th, 2021. The Anniversary Edition contains the full game plus all 3 expansions, as well as all the enhancements found in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition. The Anniversary Edition also contains over 500 unique pieces of Creation Club content, including quests, dungeons, bosses, weapons, spells, and more.
What are they charging for it?
There does not appear to be a cost at this time.
All right, well, better be a free upgrade.
It is not, as far as I know.
Dang it. If it's like $10 for an upgrade from the special edition, I'll do it. But no more. That's it, Todd. That's it. No more. After this, it better be Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, so for those not interested in the Anniversary Edition, free content is also coming out for Skyrim Special Edition, along with a free Xbox Series X and Series S upgrade. So basically, you get a free upgrade if you own the last re-release of Skyrim.
That's what I got.
So you get an upgrade that. The only thing... that won't be included is a bunch of these like mods and dungeons and stuff like that. That's Creation Club exclusive. The special edition and next gen upgrades will feature fishing, a survival mode, and new quests. Survival mode is interesting as hell to me, honestly.
That does sound interesting.
But more Skyrim.
Because like survival mode for what was it? The survival mode for what's it called?
76?
Or no, just in general. Like with Fallout games, like those are really enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And there's enough food scattered throughout Skyrim that it's not that ridiculous.
Food for days.
you finally have a reason to keep all those cheese wheels. Um, but yeah, no, there's some exciting stuff coming out. QuakeCon, there's gonna be some Fallout 76 stuff tonight. The future of Doom, the future of id Software is being mapped out in terms of what they're going to be doing is being mapped out, I think, in a stream. Well, it'll be done by the time this episode goes live, so it'll be interesting to see what that is. Some Deathloop stuff. There's a 2.5-hour Quake special tomorrow, which really, and they're going to sit down with Machine Games and id Software, apparently, and talk about Quake. So I feel like there's going to be more Quake news tomorrow because it feels really weird to do 2.5 hours on, hey, we remastered Quake 1.
That'd be very awkward.
So
it's like at most 30 minutes. At most.
Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see. More QuakeCon stuff coming. And an exciting time to be a Bethesda fan, honestly. And I can't wait to dive into
Quake. This is what QuakeCon's about.
What's that?
This is what QuakeCon's about. It's all about Bethesda, baby.
Yeah. It's exciting. There's apparently going to be some new Fallout 76 stuff they're going to show off, and be good times. So that kind of wraps up our show, except for our poll, right?
Yep, we got our final poll question. Once I get that pulled up here. All right, for the final poll question, will you be buying Skyrim again? Option A, yes. Option no. Or option B for no. Or option C, only if Cicero dances for me. So, all right, so.
And you can find that poll on Cheat Code Radio's official Twitter account. It'll be in the description of the video or MP3 that you are watching. So definitely give it a follow. Keep up to date with the latest episodes and everything else. We're back on a regular schedule again of Friday mornings. MP3 versions will be available day one now. And appreciate everyone for their support, questions, and love and hate. It's all appreciated in the end. Ivan, if you want to outro yourself here.
All right. Well, like I said before, my name is Ivan Siler from Multiverse Show. We go live on Mondays. We're taking a bit of a break until September. Namely, just you don't want to take a break anyways, so it works for us. But we'll be back in September. You have any questions? You can find me at Multiverse Show on Twitter, or you can hit me up on Xbox or PlayStation or wherever else at Anchorman V2. And consider myself outroed.
Absolutely. And I'm Nicholas Downie. You can find me on Twitter at Nicholas_Downie. You can find my other podcast, The Gaming Perspective, on YouTube, live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, you can tune into us every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to start your day off right with a cup of coffee and a little Cheat Code Radio in your cup. So we are done. We are out of here. I'm going to go play Quake and have a great time. And we will see you guys next week post Gamescom, I believe. So hopefully we'll have some stuff to talk about. Until then, have a great time and stay safe.